So now it is actually questioning your strategic position in the world, right? So that is another aspect. For example, lithium. Okay, lithium is one of the critical mineral. Okay, while second one is basically like graphite. Okay, like lithium is used in the batteries. Okay, graphite is used in nanotechnologies and several other applications. Graphite is used from like pencil to space, everywhere, space applications. Sab kuch mein use kiya. Fiber optic cables and also lasers will use iridium. Okay, and yttrium is also there. So all these are basically used. Why India is having more of software than hardware? हार्डवेयर में तो क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स चाहिए, हमारे पास क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स to secure the or to make the channel of supply sustainable through partnership. ठीक है? So that's what it says, mineral security partnership.
What sets AIR2 and AIR3 apart in UPSC CSE 2024? They didn't wait to feel ready. They started smart with the GS Foundation course at Vision IS Delhi. Structured learning, focused current affairs, real mentorship, test feedback that actually helps you grow. This course isn't just about study hours. It's about direction, clarity, and the strategy toppers trust. Start strong. Start where toppers started.
UPSC preparation is not just about reading books or watching online lectures. It requires personal guidance, real discussions, and structured practice. This is where offline mentoring makes all the difference. Unlike online learning, where doubts often remain unresolved, offline mentoring offers direct interaction, real-time feedback, and an environment of discipline and competition. One-to-one sessions help students get tailored advice, strategy corrections, and focused improvement. Every aspirant has different strengths and weaknesses. Personal mentoring helps address them effectively. Ground discussions sharpen analytical thinking and help students develop a multi-dimensional perspective on issues crucial for prelims, mains, and interview. Elocution sessions help in personality development, clarity of thought, and confidence, essential for UPSC interviews. Test writing is the most crucial part of UPSC preparation. It helps in time management, structuring answers, and improving content quality. Offline mentoring is not just about teaching. It's about grooming future officers with the right guidance, discipline, and confidence. So if you are preparing for UPSC, make sure you have the right mentor by your side.
Good evening, students. And I am Suhas. I teach Geography, Environment, and Disaster Management at Vision IS. So today, you're all here for the masterclass series, right? So we'll be dealing with two important topics, that is from the current affairs, holistically in such a way that you are well prepared for any stage of the exam of these topics, about these topics, okay? So, like, you know the topics already? Have you got the topics? Yeah. So the first one will be the geopolitics of critical minerals, where China's global control and India's strategic response will be the complete focus on this particular aspect. Okay. So now, see, let me tell you here one aspect. Whatever you will be learning in this particular session, I'll send you an handout also regarding the same. Okay, so that will have detailed notes of it. Okay, so like I've made a handout already like this, so you will get it. Okay, so I'll share this particular handout with you guys. Okay, so you will get the detailed handout on this. Okay, yeah. And next, now to start with, the first topic that we'll be looking at will be about the critical minerals. So have you heard about critical minerals in the news, right? So first, let me give you some background how this particular discussion will be, and after that I'll start making it more an interactive session. Okay, so if you look at this, why exactly we are choosing this critical minerals? Okay, we are actually choosing this critical minerals because, like, for a building to stand tall, you need a strong foundation, right? So the same way, for any of those, like, climate change adaptation or mitigation actions that we take, or the technologies we are bringing to fight the climate change, or like several other, like, daily gadgets or daily devices that we are engaged in, all of them, like, even for that matter, if you consider the defense system of a country, so everything actually has the involvement in the making by these particular critical minerals. So they become the crucial ingredient. Okay, so when you look at this here, see, like, for example, like, I will also show you one video later regarding the same. Okay, so basically here what you can see is, like, this critical minerals. Okay, these critical minerals are very much like the bedrock for the entire modern, like, industrial and technological advancements. Is that clear? Like I told you, in several sectors it has its own, like, imprints, or without which the functioning of those several sectors will be not sufficiently possible. Okay, so if you look at this in short, we can call it as, this is the 21st century industrial fuel. Okay, this is the 21st century industrial fuel. Okay, now, or else we can say the fuel of the economy rather than industry. We can say it is the 21st century fuel of the economy of any country, or the global economy, you can call it. Okay, so when you look at this further here, the considering this amount of huge significance to this critical minerals, then we should also look at its availability, sustainability, and, like, several other factors. Unless you get this as an ingredient, you cannot run the show. You cannot be contributing to the global economy, right? You cannot reap the benefits of the global economy. So what happens here is, the biggest threat that it possesses is basically the dominance of certain countries. Is that clear? The dominance of certain countries. Like, for example, to be very specific, China holds the complete dominance. Even US has thoughts about, like, fighting this dominance. Okay, we'll also look at it. Okay, so now when you look at this, the entire, like, the critical mineral, you can actually think about any mineral for that matter. Generally it takes 3 stages. Okay, the first stage will be actually the one where you are mining. The second stage will be processing, and the third stage is application in the industries. Okay, so now when you look at this aspect, all the 3 stages, the dominance is with the particular China. Okay, now you know the behavior of China, right? They have that aggressive, and also sort of, like, their policies are actually sort of like very strongly give and take, correct? So we can call it in a subtle manner, very strongly, give me what I want, then only I'll give you what you want. This is the policy they follow, correct? So now, like, here it becomes a big challenge even for India. Okay, a big challenge even for India. Like, considering, like, just defense application, you know what happened recently? We showed our might to the world, right? So now, considering this way, now is it sufficient? The world knows what we are, but then you have to upgrade, because when they know what we have, they will also build accordingly. So then we have to upgrade. For that, we need to increase the technological aspects in the defense. So to produce the defense equipment, you need this critical minerals. So now it is actually questioning your strategic position in the world. right? So that is another aspect. Okay, so when you look at this here, so India is actually looking forward to mitigate, like, such risk what we have, to mitigate such risk and come up with something that makes India more sustainable. Okay, or like India's source becomes more sustainable with respect to critical minerals. Okay, so this will be all our presentations, like complete analysis. That's what I have given you in just 2 minutes. Okay, now let us look into each of this, starting from what is actually the critical mineral to how India fights and wants to stand in the future. Okay, that will be our target. Okay, now, yeah. So here we'll be looking at this, but before going to that, let me play one video for you. Okay, before that, let's understand this and then we'll come back to this video. Okay, so here, so firstly, like the question is, what are critical minerals? Okay, so now, as you know, when we speak about what exactly are the critical minerals, okay, so there you can actually see that the name actually gives a different meaning or a different tone to this particular class of minerals. Okay, so if you look at the critical minerals, these minerals are of course naturally occurring. Okay, these minerals are of course naturally occurring elements or compounds, but what you can see is their essentiality towards a particular application is very significant and very wide. Is that clear? So considering that, now because of its high significance, the important threat is the supply chain. Is that clear? The vulnerability that is with the supply chain. So now in that situation, okay, where any mineral has wide economic importance and also their supply is vulnerable, then those will be called as critical minerals. Okay, so when you look at them, for example, lithium. Okay, lithium is one of the critical mineral. Okay, while second one is basically like graphite. Okay, like lithium is used in the batteries. Okay, graphite is used in nanotechnologies and several other applications. Graphite is used from like pencil to space, everywhere, space applications, sab kuch mein use kiya. Okay, now you can see cobalt is also used, lithium and titanium is used, and several other rare earth metals are used. All these come under the example of critical minerals. Is that clear? Now, considering this, now I said at the ending something called as rare earth elements. Now, what exactly are rare earth elements? Suna hai? Heard of this? So what are they? Exactly. So basically, periodic table में आपको जो वो lanthanoids है, along with that you have this scandium and yttrium. Okay. So basically all that comes between 57 to 71. Okay. So atomic numbers 57 to 71. That will be actually called this particular, like, rare earth elements along with the scandium and yttrium. Okay. Now why are they classified separately? Rare earth elements, are they rare? That is something we need to look at, right? Are they really rare? Are those metals or elements really rare? Because it says rare earth elements. So do we actually, like if there is an option in your prelims that says rare earth elements are classified so because they are very rarely found on earth. Is that correct? They're not much in use. Now just now I said it is part of the critical minerals. Come again, sorry. Okay, yes, somewhere near. I'll tell you that part. Okay, so basically if you look at this, these rare earth metals are called so, or rare earth elements are called so because the natural ore they are available in. From there, if you have to separate it and purify it, basically they are form of oxides. Okay, so to separate it and purify it is very difficult process because their concentration is very low in the ore, mineral ore. Okay, so now like if you look at that way, even extracting it is also a costly affair, right? So like basically it is like out of like जो बोलता है ना like 100% में कुछ 10% है, वो भी अच्छा है, बट इसमें क्या होता है 10% नहीं होता है, 1% 2% होता है, ओके वो भी ऑक्साइड फॉर्म में होता है. सो व्हाट हैपेंस इज आपका ये चीज होता है दैट यू हैव टू सेग्रीगेट इट, रिमूव द ऑक्साइड्स and then like you have to bring it to the applications. Okay, that's a difficult task. That's the reason the name origins that it's a what, rare earth elements. Is that clear? So now another thing, they have some unique properties. They have certain unique properties, like for example magnetic properties or luminescence. You know luminescence, right? So light emitting. Okay, so they have luminescence property, they have magnetic property, and they have different sorts of electrochemical properties also. Okay, see I mean whatever running notes you are making it down, you make it, no problem, but I will give you a detailed handout. Okay, but any which ways I'll give you a detailed handout. Okay, so the handout is ready, it will be uploaded on your portal. Okay, yeah. So now on the other hand, like for example, if you look at this, see, if rare earth element, as the name says, if it is actually rare, no, it is abundantly found on Earth's crust. But इनका एक ही दिक्कत है, उनको सेपरेट करके और उसको यूज करने के लिए बहुत दिक्कत होता है, बस दैट्स इट. ओके, सो दैट इज द इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग. सो इकोनॉमिकल माइनिंग इज अ टफ टास्क. Economical mining will be a tough task because it takes a lot of efforts into it. Okay, chalo, any which ways we'll focus on this and we'll come back to it again. Okay, so now you understood what are critical minerals, what are the part of it that is rare earth elements. Now where they are explicitly used, because in the introduction I told you we'll look into its application also, right? So if you look at that, see, first one, in electronics. In electronics, basically, like for example, you have hard drives, you use hard drives. In the hard drives they'll use some permanent magnets. Okay, that is from the critical minerals. And the electric motors, that will use the critical minerals. And same way you can also see the clean energy sector, like for example the wind turbines, to make it lighter, because if you are looking at the wind turbines, they should be lighter because they should be pushed by the winds. Okay, so the wind turbines or fuel cell batteries of the electric vehicles, okay, like lithium is used. Okay, so similarly, like several other applications in the clean energy sector, renewable energy sector. And moreover, medical technologies, if you look at MRI scanners. Okay, in the MRI scanners we use this, and also we use it in cancer therapies. Okay, and so is in the aerospace and defense. Okay, basically like in aerospace and defense, what happens is we tend to use this especially with respect to making high strength alloys. Okay, that is actually trying to build the defense equipments and also the aerospace equipments. So for that, like for example, like titaniums and all those will be used, but titanium is very rarely used, but for circuits and something like that. Okay, so something can be used like that. Also, like you can also see display technologies, even your cell phones. Okay, even the cell phone displays, or LCD screens, LED screens, or even fluorescent lighting, all of this actually uses this particular what do you call it as the critical minerals. Okay, now for example, like how many of you are into photography? Anybody? No? Okay, see, generally camera lens hota hai na, us camera lens mein lanthanum use karta hai. Okay, and similarly, like the wind turbines and all those magnets I told you, magnets of the wind turbines and all those, like electric vehicles and hard drives, there you use neodymium. Okay, there is something called neodymium. Okay, that is something that is used. And similarly, in there is erbium that is used in fiber optic cables. Okay, so fiber optic cables and also lasers will use erbium. Okay, and yttrium is also there. So all these are basically used. I know it becomes little complex because of the technology and the science names, but you need not remember all of it. Okay, fog lights and all, I guess they also use something in the aspect of the I'm not clearly sure of it, probably it is red phosphorus or something that is used, because in the LED screens and CRT screens they use it, so probably there might be an application of it. I'm not sure, but I'll let you know about it. Okay, yeah, so they use yttrium, probably yttrium is also a possibility. Okay, yeah, so looking at this rare earth elements, okay, have wide applications. Okay, like we saw. So now imagine, just imagine, there is no rare earth elements or there is no critical minerals, then absolutely there is no screen, correct, and there is no phone, and there is no internet, because optical fibers, right? There is no internet and there is no defense. Okay, there is no defense, strong defense equipments, or else you'll have to go back to that old times, shield and the knife. Okay, so something like that. So basically, like even like the chances of reducing the fossil fuel emissions, ये सब कुछ बहुत difficult हो जाता है, right? So because renewable energy is not possible without it. Okay, so like this. So even solar energy panels uses it. Okay, even solar energy panels uses it, wind turbines uses it. So that is something that we need to look at. Okay, so it has sufficient amount of, like for example, like literally communication technologies will use gallium and germanium. This was in news because the China was playing tricks with this. Okay, with respect to selling this particular aspect. Okay, now so looking at this, because I said China was playing the trick, okay, of like the geopolitics game. Okay, now let us look at what exactly, if these are the applications, then what exactly are those issues that is hindering the supply chain, okay, or supply chain sustainability. Okay, see, first thing, these are not concentrated deposits, first point, correct? They are very much geologically, they are scarce deposit at one place. And on the other hand, you can see this particular extraction dominance is held by China. Okay, matlab both, like or else like see, upward stream, midstream and the downward stream, all the three, matlab mining, processing and utilization in the products, manufacturing, sab kuch China ke haath mein. Okay, sab kuch China ke haath mein. Okay, it's in the hands of China. So now on the other hand, like for even mining, it's not like generally you go and mine the iron ore. It's not that way. You need specialized equipments because I told you the complexity, right? First of all, it is very less. Second of all, what is available is in the oxide form. So you need to separate it, then process it and use it. Okay, so you need specified technological aspects. That is also not easily available. Okay, and moreover, like there is always a chance that there can be geopolitical instability in the regions where you get these minerals, because you're not concentrating with China. Also, that this is available outside China, especially Africa and Latin America. Okay, you know how unstable geopolitically these regions are, right? So to the greater extent, Africa is always unstable, correct? Right? So that is something you can see. And most importantly, there is trade policy restrictions and trade wars. Okay? US supplies it, China counter applies it. US applies it to China and their allies, and so is the case with its opposite, right? So now like there you can find, of course, India will never be at the benefit with China, correct? So this is another thing. Now let us see like how exactly, before going to that, let us look into this. Okay, so like I'll show you that video later. Okay, so basically this is something we have covered. So how exactly the critical minerals become the bedrock of modern economy. Okay, that is what we have seen. So next, let us look at the next one. So we have seen this also, what are critical minerals and what are its threats, okay, in the supply chain. Okay, this is the same thing so far we happen to study. Okay, next, apart from that, now look at this. If you look at this particular image, what you can see is here it shows like which are the production centers and which are the reserves. Okay, so looking at this here, like in 2018, this is little old data but still relevant enough. Like you can see here, like 2018 production in terms of tons, you can see there is a big red dot, right? It's very clearly there. So of course, like you can have good relation with Brazil, you can have good relation with Russia, and yes, of course, India has very minuscule amount. Okay, Australia के साथ भी अच्छा relation हो सकता है, Vietnam के साथ भी हो सकता है. But now my question is, if China goes there and makes the contracts, क्या कर सकते हैं? Yes or no? Right? Australia को छोड़ दो, but उनके पास reserve भी हमसे कम है. Okay, now what about Vietnam? Vietnam तो China को against है, so possibilities are there. Okay, but Russia, they'll not bend for any Chinese terms. Okay, so they have their own defense and all those, they need their reserves. Brazil, chances are there, that's it. So now, is it sufficient? Not really, correct? So that's where we have dependency on them, but counter what we can do is something we need to know. Is that clear? So now, I'll show you one more here. There is, okay, chalo, I'll show you this directly. There's a map actually. So this is some website, I just wanted to share it with you. Okay, not really important for UPSC, but otherwise you can look into it in a perspective of the, look at this. Cobalt reserves, DRC, political instability, we spoke about this. Again, you can see Cuba, US has little bit, Canada has little bit, Morocco has it, again political instability. Okay, next Turkey, you know how friendly they are, of course, right? So next Africa, South Africa, okay, Madagascar, Australia, Papua New Guinea, Philippines, China, Russia and Indonesia. Okay, majority is in DRC. Is that clear? Look at the processing now. Reserves to chhod do, processing dekho. Do you find any other dot except Finland? No. Understood? What is the criticality of this mineral? Got it? Which one? Cobalt. Okay, next. Look at copper. Okay, if you look at copper, yes, of course, the Chile has the highest, okay, and it has the largest copper mine in the world also. You know the name? Do you remember? It's called Chiquicamata. Okay, it's called Chiquicamata. It's actually along the Chile. Okay, so it has the largest reserves, but also Peru and Mexico, US, Canada and everything. China has very less of copper. Okay, relatively. India has good amount of copper. Where? Rajasthan, K3 mines. Okay, K3 mines and surrounding places, India has good amount of it. But now look at the processing. Again, China has 27,000, that's it. But look at the processing. Right? So what you can look at this is basically China has better global presence. Samajh mein aa raha hai? You're able to analyze from the map. So China has better global presence. That's the reason you will see China gets that minerals what it wants and processes it. Okay, अब देखा होगा इधर भी China की है role processing में or here also, right? So now next, look at this lithium reserves. Do we need lithium? Yes, especially EV, right? Batteries. So look at it. Lithium is present in Australia. Okay, good numbers. Chile is highest. Okay, and Argentina, Zimbabwe, Brazil, USA, Canada, Portugal, China. Okay, let's come to processing. Again, do you see this? So, can I put a word saying that many of the critical minerals are under the monopoly of China? Yes. Okay, see, look at this now, nickel. Okay, same is the case. China has significant. Okay, unlike Indonesia, Indonesia is the largest, but China still has the significance. Okay, next. Okay, rare earth elements. Okay, so many we saw, lanthanides and scandium and yttrium and all. So look at it. Any other dot you find? Estonia to negligible hai. See? That's it. Okay. Yes, yes, that's what you're seeing here. 80% to less only, I guess, right? Yes. Okay, so I'll tell you those facts also. So you can see these are some of the important, like, you know, those maps that is showing you what is China's role. Okay, now let us look at this further. Yeah, so now did you understand like how exactly, this is 2018, but I showed you the recent one. Okay, so now next, see, how did actually China get this global control? That is something we need to know. Okay, so China's global control, a multifaceted dominance. Okay, so now when you look at this, from the pictures that you saw just now, we can establish that very clearly China has the monopoly in critical minerals. Okay, so now that means if the world wants to fight the climate change, then we need to listen to China. That is what it says, right? Indirectly. Okay, if the world wants to have a better strategic defense position, then we have to listen to China, right? If the world wants to have good technological progress, be it like next generations of internet, internet transmission, of course, right? Or mobile technology, TVs, or anything like that, electric vehicles, jo bhi baat karna hai, it comes under these minerals only. Okay, so understanding this, now let us understand how China took over this particular step. It did work on the 3 zones. 1, upstream, that is mining. 2, midstream, that is processing and refining. 3, downstream, that is manufacturing. Okay, see, very simply, it has got into that vertical integrated approach. Okay, upstream, midstream, downstream, pura. Okay, where in the upstream, what it has done is, it strategically went to different countries, invested in those countries. Countries need money. Like for example, you saw the reserves. Okay, not many of them were developed countries. Okay, those countries which had the reserves wanted the money. Correct? So now what you can see is basically they took the money, they signed the contract. Chalo, you have 99 years lease with us. Okay, so now what happened is globally they have secured good long-term contracts with African countries and Latin American countries. Biggest step, step 1. Okay, now they bring the Chinese labor, Chinese equipments, they run the show, they're taking the mines, pura resources. Okay, so they are extracting the raw materials and taking back to China. What will they do taking back to China? Step 2, midstream. Okay, now when you look at this midstream, like processing का maps हमने देखा, right? उसमें आप देख सकते हैं, like I'll tell you, rare earth elements, 90% hold in China, hold in the hands of China, processing. Next, graphite, monopoly, shortcut ही नहीं है, एकदम 100% China के हाथ में है, graphite. Okay, and third, like cobalt, lithium, nickel, all these we saw processing. Close to 80% is in the hands of China. Is that clear? So what you can see with this amount of the midstream capacity, okay, what China will do, because this is where you need to send it to the countries. Okay, this is where you need to send it to the countries. Okay, so even like that situation, if you see, what happens is China says, I can dictate terms. Okay, not very vocally, but through its policies. It pushes towards dictating the terms. Okay, so it can control the prices. It can say the highest possible price. Now, for example, even if a country, like let us say USA, it has the capability to shell out that much money to purchase the critical minerals. But when it is put in the application part, the product prices will increase. Who will buy? Right? End orientation is that only, no? Right? So now basically through its like policy, it can bring in bottleneck situation also. Okay, it can actually bring in like completely where it is producing, where it is processing, उधर ही वो कंट्रोल कर सकता है. उनका इतना एबिलिटीज तो आ गया है. ठीक है? Okay, and now what about the processing that it does? If it is actually increasing the price, or if it is controlling the geopolitical trade, or like for example the bilateral, multilateral trades and all those, if it is controlling, then what will it do with this much of excess reserves? Tell me what is not produced in China. Very clearly. Tell me what is not produced in China. Let us speak about the defense. Of course, it has several customers like Pakistan. Okay, so that is there. Whether it works or not, that is secondary. But otherwise, it has good number of, what do you say, the customers. Okay, second one, defense के लिए ये चाहिए. Second one, EV vehicles, electric vehicles. You must have heard about this BYD or BYB. What is that? BYD. Yeah, BYD, China. MG, China. Right? There are so many such manufacturers that is actually China. Okay, and moreover, you can also see, speak about renewable energy technologies. They are also transiting. They would require, right? And they're actually selling it to their allies. And moreover, you can see electronics. बात ही नहीं करना है, since like almost 2 decades they are running the show. Okay, initially it was Chinese model, like what you used to call in this local slang, but otherwise today it is like different brands have come up. MI, right? Xiaomi and so many other brands have come, right? So that is something you will see. Of course, they are doing good, right? Of course, few of the brands are doing good and they have reached the global markets also, right? वो कौन सा है phone? OnePlus. Okay, it is also a Chinese brand, correct? Yes or no? So you can see this way. It's also reaching good competition from the Android, right? So usme bhi hai critical minerals. So now you tell me, is it not having downstream dominance? All the three, mining across the world, midstream, of course, controlling, downstream, of course, right? So you know how much you get the phones or like, you know, the things from the Chinese price point of view, right? मतलब इनको कैसा like intrude करना है market के अंदर उनको पता है, correct? So that is another thing. Okay, so not just this, it doesn't stop here. It doesn't stop here. Let me tell you, there are like, you know, several times the state supporting the downstream. Okay, like how? Like for example, see, Chinese government provides subsidies. Chinese government provides like quotas. Okay, export quotas deta hai. Or like also they give preferential loans. Okay, and also they have strategic industrial like policies and frameworks. All of this is to hold their control in their hands. Okay, so what you can see is basically this is the way they are actually securing the supply into the market, right? They can crash the market. You know basically how it works, demand supply. So you know how much they have in their hands. Every mineral, critical mineral, I can very clearly say they have more than 50%. And few minerals, 90%. So they can crash the global markets. And same way, they can choke the global markets. Accepted? Clear? Right? So now when you look at this here, so there are several export controls that is used as a geopolitical tool. That is what we meant to say. Yes, of course. Gallium and all is used in the semiconductors only. That is where the issue was recently. Exactly. Exactly. See, that is one more thing, no? See, if for example, if you're looking at the other aspect, why India is having more of software than hardware? हार्डवेयर में तो क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स चाहिए, हमारे पास क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स प्रोसेस, सी देखो हमारे पास रिजर्व्स तो है इतना, लाइक यू नो वी आर नॉट सो मच इन दैट सिचुएशन दैट वी डोंट हैव अ रिजर्व, वी हैव रिजर्व्स, बट उसको प्रोसेस करने के लिए टेक्नोलॉजी भी नहीं है और स्किल्ड मैन पावर भी नहीं है, स्किल्ड मैन पावर. Okay, so now how will you come up with semiconductor industry in India? Right? So that is the challenge. Now semiconductors, again go back to China. Is that clear? So this is what you will see. Now like the semiconductor industry, that was in news actually. Okay, because like gallium and germanium are the ones that is used in semiconductors. Okay, these gallium and germanium was under like you know the complete like you know sort of vigilance of the geopolitical tool of China. Okay, China says you go, it is in the market. China says you don't go, it is in its own hands. But it will dictate the 21st century's economy. Is that clear? Okay, so this is something that it is looking at. So now, what exactly are the implications that you see? That is something we have to see. Okay, so this is something I told you. Okay, and there are some videos I need to show you, but I don't know why the audio isn't coming. Okay, but I'll show you these videos also meanwhile. Okay, so now on the other hand, now let us look at what is the global impact. Okay, how can China dictate the geopolitical terms and what happens to the geopolitics, okay, because of such Chinese dominance? That is something we need to know. Now let us look at each of this. The first thing which defines the critical mineral is the supply chain vulnerability. Correct? Yes or no? Now very simply, can I say this statement? All the countries in the world who are looking forward for industrialization are heavily reliant on China. Correct? Yes or no? So, next, apart from that, now, are there trade disputes between two big nations of the world, China and USA? So, do they have allies? Yes. China has its own allies, and so is the USA. Now, for example, if China is applying a particular tariff on USA, that means to its allies also? Yes or no? Right? So is the case vice versa? Retaliatory tariff. Now, that means supply chain vulnerability increased. Correct? So that is what you are seeing there. Got it? Every one of this point will be given to you in the handout. Okay, don't worry about it. So basically, that's how by choking the supply chain, they can cripple the entire industries of the world. They can cripple the global economy, including USA. Okay, including USA. Okay, so apart from that, what is the economic leverage they can actually get? Okay, very simple. What is the economic leverage? Is very simply that they will exert economic pressures on the global countries. Is that clear? They shall exert, like, they shall use their position to exert the economic pressure. Okay, they will exert that basically through their foreign relations or through their industrial policies. Now they'll say import tariff or export tariff. उनका तो export tariff है, ठीक है? Export tariff. Okay, so they will say like Chinese के ऊपर किसी country, like for example if they put tariff, okay, China will say you reduce your import tariff, otherwise I will put export tariff on this. समझ में आ रहा है? Now they can control the other country's economy. वो है economic leverage. Okay, now if the other country doesn't get these minerals, then of course you will see that country's industries will choke. Correct? Yes or no? Able to connect? Am I too fast? No. Clear with this? Okay. Yeah. So now, ये तो छोड़ दो. What is the biggest haunting problem of the world today? One biggest problem. Sorry? Climate change. Yes, climate change. What is the solution? Paris Climate Agreement. What does it say? Below 1.5 degrees Celsius. And recent global stocktake said, if we are going with the same pace, we will be ending at 2.5 to 2.9 degrees Celsius increase by 2100. Then what is the solution? We need to shift away from the fossil fuels, right? So moving away from the fossil fuels, matlab India's energy basket 70% ki upar is concentrated on coal, thermal power station. Then if I have to go away from coal, what is the way? Wind energy, solar energy, all the renewable energies. To make the wind panel, to make the turbines of the, to make the solar panel, to make the turbines of the windmills, what do you want? Okay, is it only India? Across the world. Okay, let us say this way. International Solar Alliance, India and France established. What is the goal? What is the goal? To actually harness the solar energy, especially in the which tropical countries, but anybody can join. Correct? Now, if you are persuading the countries to actually go for solar enrichment, solar energy harnessing, उसका तो panels चाहिए. कौन dictate कर रहा है? समझ में आ रहा है? So, very simply, it is a big hindrance to clean energy transition. Got it? Clear with this? Okay. Now, on the other hand, also you can see the uneven playing field. Iska meaning kya hai? Like for example, China's practices are not that conducive for especially environment or labor. Okay. So what happens is in several places, okay, matlab for example, okay, chalo, I did not put it in the right way. Let me put it in a different way. China's standards of labor and China's standards of exploiting the nature are never conducive with the standards of other countries. Accepted? So they can empty the entire mine like this. इनके पास इतना ह्यूमन लेबर भी है और इनके पास इतना इकोनॉमिक लेवरेज भी है और टेक्नोलॉजिकल लेवरेज भी है. So they can never give a level playing field for any other country. Even if, for example, USA, India, or Russia, UK, any NATO countries, they want to start mining or up, like, upstream, downstream, midstream, whatever, if they want to do. इनके पास, like India के पास मैन पावर है, टेक्नोलॉजी कहाँ है? मैन पावर में भी स्किल्ड नहीं है. तो now you tell me. Huh? Yes, of course. That is all the solutions. But immediate short term में नहीं मिलेगा. But अभी के अभी चाहिए, चाइना कर लेता है. Right? So that is the difference. Got it? So that is what is the uneven playing field that China has an edge. ठीक है? And the last one, national security concerns. Of course, if they're not giving, there is no defense. Okay? Not that, see, for example, in that way, it becomes a concern till the time you are dependent and reliant on that country. Okay, you will actually neutralize that point only when you can do something or some other country who is an ally of you can do something. Short term, somebody doing it for you. Long term, you should do it for yourself. समझ में आए? So basically, in case of like any particular defense technology, it requires the critical minerals. So the resources will be a significant one that plays the national security's strength and vulnerability. समझ में आए? So this is how they play their dominance in the geopolitical field. Is that clear? Clear with this? Understood? Okay, next. I again have 2 videos to show you. See, there are 2 things when you look at this way. One is the manpower, 2 is the ingredient. Okay, so now when it comes to manpower, now we have actually started skilling it up and scaling it up. दोनों, right? Skilling भी चल रहा है, skilling of that manpower and also scaling up the manpower is happening. But availability of the minerals is absolutely not the only factor, but one of the factors. Okay, that is of course there. Brahmos and all those, yes, yes. That is there. We are also a latecomer into this. See, very simply, if we look at it, the point he said is very good. Like, we are not just the latecomers, we skipped one stage in economic transition. Like, we skipped the industrial stage, right? So, even today, our mining looks at only coal and iron, right? इससे बाहर तो हम देखा नहीं. आपके पास माइनिंग करना है तो इंडस्ट्रियल इक्विपमेंट्स चाहिए. सो वेयर आर द इंडस्ट्रियल इक्विपमेंट्स? समझ में आ रहा है? सो वन फैक्टर, नॉट द ओनली फैक्टर. दैट्स व्हाट आई वुड से. ओके, या. नेक्स्ट. सो I'll have to show you these videos. Let me look into it. Okay, eventually. Like, I don't know if let me give a try.
Preparing for the UPSC Civil Services examination demands strong preparation across all mains papers. And when it comes to scoring well in the mains, your optional subject plays a crucial role. A good performance in your optional paper can be the difference between just qualifying and securing a top rank. To help you build a strong conceptual foundation and improve answer writing, Vision IAS presents the Optional Classroom Program 2026, available in both live online and classroom offline modes. Subjects offered: Geography, Sociology, Political Science and International Relations. Batch starts from 20th June, 2 p.m. Physics. Classes start from 15th July.
So I'll show you these videos, like 4 or 5 videos I have embedded in this. I'll show you those videos in which ways. Next. Okay. Now to look at, like, basically what are, like, we have seen the supply risk, supply vulnerability. How is it impacting India? That is something we need to look at. Okay. So how vulnerable is India? Because this is very important for us. You cannot compare the global vulnerability to and equate it to India. India might be specific to some aspects and different from other aspects. Okay, so let us look at this. Now, if you look at India, if you actually, Children. Okay, look at this.
Critical minerals are the materials that all of our clean energy technologies are made from. They are used in electric car batteries, wind turbines, electric grids, things like copper, lithium, cobalt.
They play an important role in helping our technologies be more efficient. Wind turbines more powerful or lighter. Electric cars can have longer ranges.
A lot of these minerals are already in use for a number of different things. Copper, for example, we use in all kinds of electric applications. And what we need it for is huge expansion of the grid. So what we're using it for is some of the same things we've always used it for, but we need a lot more of it.
There are enough resources in the ground, but the question is to translate those resources into production with adequate investment. As we accelerate energy transitions, demand for these minerals can grow quite rapidly. So there are some risks of short supply might emerge.
A supply disruption for critical minerals does not directly affect people driving electric cars or people using solar panels at home. However, supply disruptions have an impact on the future manufacturing capacity of all clean energy technologies.
If we don't have adequate supply of critical minerals, it can make our transition either slower or more expensive, which is the risk we cannot have room to take.
Okay, so this was something, the first video I had to show you. Okay, so that was the thing, and now let me show you the other pending videos also. This we have seen, that was the maps. Okay, the processing and the reserves maps. Okay,
are leading the transition to electric cars. And while we may be ahead in technology innovation, we have a fundamental problem. We do not own the supply chain. China does.
This video, I was telling you how there is a situation between China versus USA, right? So that aspect, it will give you, okay, an idea. So you can replace USA with India on the relative degree scale, okay, and think about the same, okay? Yeah, let's look at this.
At the heart of an electric car is its battery, made from metals sourced from around the world in a supply chain stretching 50,000 miles. And after decades of deliberate industrial policy, China now controls the battery materials supply chain. China funds and operates mining projects around the world, processes and refines these metals at home, and is now in a strong position to dictate the terms. So currently, China holds the lifeline to our electric future. Our transition to clean energy will take several decades and require large quantities of critical metals. In many cases, we don't have the domestic deposits to produce these metals at home. So what can the United States do? Accept our dependence on China and learn to live with potential supply chain disruptions? No, we can't build an industry with this vulnerability. Work with our allies to develop an alternative, more secure supply chain? Yes, but it won't be enough. China owns nearly every contract for the future supply of key metals, like nickel. Could we look beyond conventionally mined metals? Recovering metal from scrap and electronic waste is crucial and may solve our problem in the long term, but it won't be enough in the next 30 years, which is why it may be time to look beyond land-based mines. 1,500 miles off the coast of California is the world's largest known deposit of battery metals. Nickel, copper, cobalt, and manganese all packed into a single rock. These polymetallic nodules can be collected and brought to American soil and processed by American companies. It's a path to make real progress in solving our supply chain problem by making the battery materials at the heart of electric cars at home. An opportunity to rebuild an entire industry from the ground up, reshore manufacturing in the US, and create new jobs. The United States has a choice. We can try to play catch up with China in the conventional metal supply chain, or we can innovate and secure our own future.
Okay, so did you look into that second video? The first video was basic any which ways, right? So the second video that you saw was actually showing you the geopolitical angle of it. Correct? What we had discussed is the same, like a little bit with respect to the perspectives of US. Now very simple, like let me give you an off track addition to your preparation, off track of this topic. What you saw here was off the coast of California, you had the reserves that is responsible, that is facilitating the entire, what do you call the electronics as well as the electricals, correct? Electronics and electrical industries. Now that means location of industries. Can we think about that? Right? The location of industries. Can I say Apple and like several other industries that is related to some of the electronics manufacturing are located along the west coast zone of USA? No. Now you can look at it is completely based on the what do you call raw material location, raw material based location, correct? Samajh mein aaya? So every video how you need to analyze is this, not just that topic, but it gives more than that topic. Okay, so for that you should know your syllabus well. Is that clear? Chalo, let us look at the other aspects now. So this was how the critical mineral supply chain vulnerability was shown. Okay, now next. Now the question comes, firstly, is the quantity sufficient? Okay. Secondly, the question comes, even if the quantity is sufficient, is it still competitive? Extracting from the ocean versus getting it from China. Forget about China, getting it from the land, which is more competitive. Okay. Like for every positive, there is an alternative that is opposing a negative. Opposing negative. Okay. So these two things also we need to consider. So absolutely I cannot say it is positive. Okay. That's the thing. Yes, let us look at this. This we have seen, right? No. Okay, this is from International Energy Agency, so kindly look at it. Okay, so that was little bit of understanding where it was actually saying that every country is far away from a guaranteed sustainable availability of the resources. That is what it was saying actually. Okay, considering not just the geopolitical domination or like resource domination by one country, but also several other like weather events, okay, and technological let us say, what do you say, lack of advancements in the technologies, okay, with respect to the upstream, downstream, and the midstream also, okay, those things. But this was less informative than the ones that I had shown you before. Okay, now let us look at the next one. Yes, that is the same thing I mentioned when I said it is having a global contracts, okay, especially with Africa and Latin America. Okay, but here it's not just now what you thought about is how it is countering India, but think how it is countering the global enemies of it. Okay, like it does with India with a string of worlds, it is doing with other countries too. Okay, so the complete boost of it comes from like its success in industrial policy. Okay, the 30 years what he mentioned, that 30 years of success has given them that loads of money to actually design their future. Okay, yeah. Full screen nahi ho raha hai,
But at the same time, historically, the mining industry has been associated with all kinds of different negative impacts to communities, impacts to workers, to the environment, and there have been human rights concerns as well. And a lot of those issues are really real. And as we talk about expanding mining,
see, basically this particular video will tell you how sustainable it is. If you recall, one of the challenges I said, it is not sustainable to go with this because it has environmental cost also. Like I told you, like when China goes for it, China doesn't care about the environment, right? So like China has that much of resource, that much of manpower, that much of technology. So now it also has that level of thoughts that it doesn't care about the environment. Okay, so now the question comes, how exactly is it gonna be? Is it sustainable or not? Okay, that is something that we need to look at. Let us look at that part now. Okay.
countries that have these resources can really do a lot to make sure that they take advantage and bring economic benefits to the population. But at the same time, historically, the mining industry has been associated with all kinds of different negative impacts to communities, impacts to workers, to the environment, and there have been human rights concerns as well. And a lot of those issues are really real. And as we talk about expanding mining, bringing in bigger mines for copper, lithium, and these other materials, we need to address those risks. The good news is that we can do better. There are companies out there that have shown that it's possible to responsibly and sustainably source their materials. We can have reduced community impacts, water pollution, air pollution, reduced greenhouse gas emissions. These technologies already exist. It's really a question of ensuring that every company is using them. If we don't address the environmental and social and community impacts of mining, then this could affect how quickly we're able to scale up the technologies that we need for the clean energy transition.
Okay. So this was a video by the International Energy Agency. Okay. So, okay. Now, when you look at this further, we were discussing about India's vulnerability, right? So, as you look at this India's vulnerability, yeah, India's exposure to basically that risk, okay, of that supply chain or anything like that. What you can see, as I told you, the first important thing, India has highest import dependency. Is that clear? India has very high import dependency. Like for example, very simple example, lithium. 82% of lithium comes from outside India. It is imported. Okay, that's one simple example I'm giving you. So in a way, if you look at this particular dependency, are we dependent on China? Yes, absolutely yes. Directly sometimes, indirectly many times. Okay, so we are actually heavily dependent on China because we import all these critical minerals. Okay, second thing. Now, what is Make in India? That is the industrial boost in which sectors? Specifically, electric mobility, renewable energy capacity, right? And also several other, like, for example, the communication technologies, right? So that is where we are looking at, right? Cell phones, mobile phones, ye sab kuch, like we want Apple to come and invest here. We want Samsung to come and invest, something like this, right? So now tell me, which of these sector does not require this as a basic ingredient? Now, after Operation Sindoor, like we have shown our defense might, correct? So after showing this, now the world, several, like recently it was seen, 17 or 18 countries are waiting in list for BrahMos missile, right? So now, like think about the defense, industry. If you want to expand, then think about where do you get the minerals from. Correct? So that is also one significant vulnerability. Okay. Moreover, like also considering the hostile, boundaries with the hostile countries at our boundaries. Okay. So we have to be very much prepared, defense prepared. For that also, we need to boost our India's defense manufacturing capabilities. Correct? So that is also there where you have to look at. That means we need critical minerals for that. And not just this, like if you look at the economic competitiveness, okay, so like if you want to rule the world market, or if you want to be competitive in the world market, then of course, like, your resources or your goods should not be high priced. Correct? If they need not be high priced, then they should always be having the inputs that can give a better margin. Correct? If, for example, your input cost is 10 rupees and you are selling at like 100 rupees, when the same type of alternative is running at 50 rupees, who will price? Right? So, matlab, your input cost should be lower to keep your margin lower. Sorry, margin sufficient. Okay, margin sufficient. Is that clear? So, now your entire industry's economic competitiveness is dependent on critical minerals. Correct? Samajh mein aaya? Okay, so now further. Now, what should India do? What is India's response? Okay, what are we doing, or what are we planning to do? That is something we need to know. When we look at that, see, Indian government has initiated several like steps. Firstly, the Ministry of Mines, if you look at, okay, so the Ministry of Mines that you look at has been actively working both inside and outside the country. Is that clear? So, very clearly, now the domestic exploration is boosted, okay, and the domestic auction of the mineral blocks has started, okay, and international करने के लिए भी एक special purpose vehicle को भी लेकर आया. ठीक है? So now, for example, let me tell you how. Government of India has identified 30 critical minerals. This is your news article. Correct? You must have read this. Out of them, 24 critical minerals are included in the Mines and Minerals Development and Regulation Act 1957. Matlab, you can explore and mine these minerals and use them. Iska meaning yahi hai. Okay, so now you should know one prelims fact I'll give you. Who actually puts the minerals into the list? Okay, who revises it? That is done by the Center of Excellence for Critical Minerals. Okay, they will review the mineral list frequently in periodic intervals and keep it dynamic. Samajh mein aaya? Clear with this? Able to get it? Everyone? Okay, so now apart from that, there's one more thing I'll tell you, one of the significant step. Okay, so like
UPSC CSE 2024 results are out and dreams have turned into ranks. Now you are asking, how do I get there? You've got the drive. What you need is the right guidance. Lakshya Integrated Mentoring Program 2026 by Vision IAS is your one-stop guidance program for prelims, mains, and interview. Smart, strategic revision for prelims and mains. Consistent mentorship with personalized feedback. Daily weekly schedule and practice targets. Custom test practice via Sandhan test series. Interview and personality test training. All of it structured to guide you, strategic to keep you focused, and designed to meet your evolving needs. New batch starts from 19th May. It's your turn now. Start strong with Lakshya Mentoring Program 2026. Are you still juggling newspapers, random notes, and endless PDFs trying to make sense of current affairs? Let's make your UPSC prep smarter. Introducing Digital Current Affairs Premium by Vision IAS, your all-in-one platform to read, revise, and write better every single day. Have a doubt from today's news or something in your syllabus? Just ask and get instant AI-powered answers that are concise, relevant, and completely aligned with the UPSC exam pattern. No more guesswork, no more confusion. Want to boost your mains writing skills? Practice daily with structured questions and get expert feedback to sharpen your content, clarity, and analysis, because writing well is winning half the battle. Need better revision? Use quick notes and highlights to save key points, mark important lines, and organize your current affairs in a way that actually works for you. And here's the best part, some of the most powerful tools are absolutely free. Daily news summaries from The Hindu, Indian Express and more, curated, filtered, and exam ready. Downloadable PDFs so your notes stay organized and accessible. Daily quizzes and MCQs to reinforce what you've learned and track your progress. A smart student dashboard to monitor your performance and stay on top of your goals. Whether you're just starting or deep into your prep, Digital Current Affairs Premium adapts to your strategy and makes every minute count. So why prepare the hard way when you can prepare the smart way? Visit www.visionis.in/current-affairs and start transforming your current affairs prep today. Because with Vision IAS, you don't just stay updated, you stay ahead.
The next important step that will be, like, basically see, there is this National Critical Mineral Mission. Okay, National Critical Mineral Mission. So here the concept revolves around the basic fundamental idea of our Prime Minister, Atmanirbhar, self-dependency. Is that clear? Self-dependency. So now here, what are the steps taken to achieve Atmanirbhar? Okay, so that is domestic exploration and mining, which I told you, right? Usme specifically aap dekhega to, like, the target is 1200 projects to be explored by, 1200 sites to be explored by 2030. Is that clear? So not just that, you can see by exploring it, they're also planning to auction at least more than 100 blocks for mining by 2030. That is very near future. Okay, not just this, there is Geological Survey of India that is also playing its role. Okay, so when you look at the Geological Survey of India, it is also under the domestic exploration aspect only. The Geological Survey of India, you already know. Chalo, let me ask you this way, better than me telling you, I'll ask you this. Where do we have lithium reserves in India? Where? Recently there was a terrorist attack also. Riyasi. Okay, you have lithium reserves in Riyasi, Jammu Kashmir. Almost 5.9 million tons of lithium ore is present there. Second, we have it in Chota Nagpur. And third, we have it in Mandya, Karnataka. Okay, so these, and fourth, where is the first panchayat established in India? Where was the first panchayat in India? Kerala? Tamil Nadu, huh? Rajasthan. Where? Nagaur district. Okay, so Nagaur also have lithium. Is that clear? Nagaur also has lithium. Now, how do we know this? Don't tell me news articles. Okay, but how does the government declares it? It is the role of Geological Survey of India. Samajh mein aaya? So, Geological Survey of India is part of the Ministry of Mines, okay, where it carries out the mineral exploration in Indian territory. Is that clear? Samajh mein aaya? So, can I say that is also part of this? Correct? Right. So, unless they know what they are exploring, then there is no point. So, they are exploring for critical minerals, matlab, that is under part of this. Correct? Is this clear? Next, apart from that, now there is one particular body that is called KABIL. Okay, KABIL stands for Khanij Bidesh India Limited. Okay, so this is overseas operation. Okay, like in the overseas, wherever in the foreign countries you have the mineral assets. Okay, there you will actually sort of acquire the mineral assets. Okay, so how does that happen? Like, for example, like Indian public companies, Indian private companies are persuaded to go for a collaboration with the abroad, okay, wherever there are reserves. उनके साथ collaboration में जाके उधर एक body establish करता है, working body over there, and that will actually bring the minerals for you. It is similar to what China did. China went to Africa, China went to Latin America, it made contracts, long-term contracts, it took the mine blocks. यही करने की हमारा कोशिश भी है. ठीक है? So now, like for one best example, Critical Minerals Office. Okay, that's the name of the office. That is in Australia, where India under Kabul, that particular body, okay, is been exploring lithium and cobalt projects there. Okay, it's been exploring lithium and cobalt over there. समझ में आ रहा है how it's working outside? Next, also there is one more thing that is in the overseas operation only, that is called MSP. It's not minimum support price. It is called Mineral Security Partnership. नाम पे कुछ बोल सकते हैं नाम से? Anything you can assume what it speaks for? What does it do? हाँ, to secure the or to make the channel of supply sustainable through partnership. ठीक है? So that's what it says, Mineral Security Partnership. ठीक है? So like it is a US-led collaboration. Okay, 14 countries are there who are actually persuading and catalyzing the the public as well as private investments to make sure the supply of the critical minerals is sustainable. Is that clear? So India is part of it. India is part of it. Okay, next, also another important thing, like India, not just, see, this was upstream, correct? We were looking at mining, domestic mining and yes, overseas mining. Second kya hai? What is the next one? Midstream, that is processing and refining. इसके लिए क्या चाहिए इंडिया को? What does India want for processing and refining? Investments to economy factor, like yes, where do you put the money? Manufacturing. So India is encouraging manufacturing units, but that is downstream. Okay, but you need the refineries, not manufacturing units. You need the refineries. Okay, so India is actually encouraging potential increase in the domestic refineries and the processing facilities, so that what minerals we get both domestic and overseas mining से उसको हम process करें और refine करें. मतलब because you know how difficult it is, so we need the establishments, we need the technologies, we need the skilled manpower. India is focusing on all three. Okay? Next, apart from this, now India is also looking forward to make mineral parks. Okay, like dedicated units, like special economic zones में कुछ dedicated होता है ना, और कुछ like industrial zones होता है specifically for some particular product. Like that, we are looking at the mineral processing parks in India. That's how India is trying to progress this particular part. Okay, and finally, India is also looking at one more aspect, that is, like, see, for example, let us say you have a phone. Okay, so when you have a phone, like let us say after 1 year, 2 years, you will change the phone. What happens to the one that is used presently? Discard, right? उसको ऐसा discard करना सही है? नहीं ना? So there is something called extended producer's responsibility. You must have heard about this in environment class, right? So this extended producer responsibility में क्या होता है? They are taking it back and scientifically recycling it, and the ones which cannot be recycled is channeled into disposal. Yeah, yes, correct. Okay, now the question is very simple. इस recycle में कौन सा minerals को extract कर रहा है? Okay, forget about minerals which are extracted. Tell me this, can I find some minerals which are part of the critical minerals list? Yes, correct. So now that means we are mining the critical minerals through the recycling process. Okay, so what is it called? Circular economy, right? So basically India is focusing on recycling and circular economy. समझ में आया? Okay, so like for example, what does India do? What is India's status? Let us look at with respect to the possibilities and potential for recycling and circular economy. Firstly, India generates 3.3 million tons of waste, e-waste, okay, as per 2019, in comparison to the global capacity of 53 million. Matlab, that is sufficiently good numbers, right? Secondly, we use a lot of base metals, precious metals, rare earth elements in the electronic gadgets. So we can retrieve them. Correct? And most importantly, like China, if you look at, if you are actually aspiring to do something from China's good steps or good practices, China happens to produce more cobalt through recycling than mining. Okay, through recycling than mining. Then we can also adopt it. Why depend on some other country? Instead, you can do this particular way of recycling and getting the minerals. Okay, and moreover, if you do this, what happens is, like, there are certain advantages. Okay, firstly, like, it stabilizes the market with how much it wants. मतलब supply demand balance लेकर आता है. ठीक है? Second thing, you can see that environment will be safe from the hazards caused by mining. Just now we saw the video which was saying never mining is actually environment friendly. Correct? You know, basically any mineral you take, never mining is environment friendly. So can I say your forests, your reserves, minerals, biodiversity and the threats from the hazards, everything is minimized. Correct? Okay. Next, apart from that, जो metal आपको मिलता है recycled method से, that will be 2 to 10 times more efficient and energy conserving than the new minerals, new metals. Okay, that is an advantage. Okay, so but India has certain challenges to accomplish this. Okay, like for example, the e-waste that will actually be generated will be increasing because India is looking forward for solar panels, wind turbines, electric vehicles and like several other like infrastructure. Correct? So the electric waste will increase. And apart from that, if that is increasing, then are we equipped to that standards to recycle on the same level? No. Yes, not right now. Okay, so that's where the problem arises. Okay, so much of the e-waste management in India is in the informal sector. Okay, so that's why e-waste management rule says and aims to bring the entire sector, at least 90% of the sector, into the formal. Okay, so when it is under informal, you cannot regulate it easily. Okay, also you do not know the kind of the manpower working there. Okay, so these are some threats. So that's why recently some certain steps were also taken, okay, with respect to adopting to that particular aspect, okay, where you can actually see that battery waste management rules 2022 was released, which was saying that in phased manner at least we have to increase that particular capacity to recycle especially lithium batteries. Okay, this was something it was said. So there is the same place where the EPR is also put there. EPR क्या होता है? Extended Producer's Responsibility. Okay, so this is something that you can see. And Niti Aayog also came up giving a terminology for the mining from the recycling aspects and the circular economy as urban mining. Okay, they will ask you in your prelims, what is urban mining? Okay, so you should know this. Okay, so now apart from this, like what you can see that India is aiming to do, technological advancements, research and development in the field. So basically where we need a sufficient amount of exploration capabilities, mining, processing and recycling technologies. So to accomplish the previous points which I said, India is working on technological and research and development aspects. Okay, and further you can also see India is looking forward, you know this petroleum reserve, strategic petroleum reserve. Have you heard of this? India's strategic petroleum reserves. So you have like the underground caves where you are storing for emergency time, right? Crude oil you are storing for emergency time. So it is in Karnataka, it is in Andhra Pradesh, it is in Odisha. Okay, so the same way it proposes strategic stockpiling. Is that clear? Where we will actually sort of reserve the critical minerals for the emergency time period. समझ में आए? So this is something it is looking at. Okay. So apart from that, yes, of course, we are going to make the exploration licenses and pace it up. So through the policy reforms, that is another aspect. Is that clear? So these are some of the important aspects that you can look at with respect to India's steps to fight what? Chinese dominance and make sure our industries are self-reliant. Is that clear? Next. So now international collaboration also we are looking at. Basically, in the case of international collaboration, we are identifying like, okay, we are trying to diversify our supply chain basket by identifying our potential like-minded partners, and from there we are trying to sort of like make sure the bilateral agreements and contracts are made in the long-term perspective. What China did, we are doing it. Okay, so that's the same thing we are trying to do. This mineral security partnership, we studied about that, MSP, right? 14 countries, US-led collaboration, right? So that is the same thing. Okay, so that's how we are targeting to make sure that import dependency is not concentrated on one country, rather a basket of diversified list. Okay, so that is what we are looking at. Okay, next. So now what are the challenges? Currently, what are the challenges to accomplish our self-reliance on critical minerals? Firstly, it is the limited domestic reserves we have. You saw a couple of minerals only had the presence in India, and that too in very less million tons, correct? So because of that limited reserves, it becomes a challenge. Second of all, you can see we have technological gaps, okay, where like for example, it is like still we have not developed to that level of technology where the low grade minerals can be extracted. But of course, these are low grade minerals. Matlab, low grade minerals in the sense what? In the mineral ore, how much is the amount of this mineral available? Okay, so that is what you're looking at. Okay, these are low grade minerals. So we do not have that advanced technology or expertise. And further, capital intensive structure. Bringing all this onto the platter will require a lot of money. Where do we get that money from? Okay, so that is another thing. So otherwise, you can also see if we are aggressively going for this, there will always be an environmental concern. Okay, see, like going for mining releases greenhouse gases. You are fighting greenhouse gases, you are fighting climate change, then how can you go for aggressive way of releasing the greenhouse gas this way? Then what is the point? You are releasing somewhere and you are making renewable energy, then what is the point? Right? So apart from that, you can also see there is significant amount of geopolitical competition, right? Do you really think when you're going for a contract with some African country, China will keep quiet? Right? So there will always be like significant interest from other countries, which they will also explicitly fight for a competitive edge. Okay, and further, let me tell you one very important thing here. Private sector, bringing them is a difficult task. Why? Can you think? Why is it difficult? Long gestation periods. Iska meaning kya hai? You put money today, to take that benefit, it takes a long time period. Samajh mein aaya? So, private sector will not be happy to come soon. Yes, yes. That's why it becomes difficult to like pull them in, okay, into this particular thing. Okay, so that is something. So if you're looking at the disadvantages in this way, then how do we handle this? How to actually like go for a strategy that keeps India secure, right? So now the recommendations that we need to look at for future strategy to strengthen our position is here. See, first thing, whatever the domestic exploration we are going for, go for it aggressively. Do it like at the earliest and with the greater abilities. Okay? So now, like, matlab, isko kya karna hai? Advanced technology chahiye? Mangwa do. Right? Or isko kya chahiye? Like, expertise chahiye? Fir train karo. Right? So this is what it is saying. Secondly, प्राइवेट सेक्टर पार्टिसिपेशन को adequately incentivize करो, वो आ जाएगा. ठीक है? Adequately like fiscal incentives or certain regulations and all these things, if you can actually make it, then you should pull the private sector. Okay, because they have money, they can bring the money, right? So apart from that, skill development in mineral exploration, mining, processing, this is something that you need to look at. Is that clear? So the another important thing, try to foster good international relations with the countries who have resources and get long-term contracts. Okay, and further, invest in the research and development, bring the technology, go for global collaborations, bilateral, multilateral collaborations to make that particular upstream, midstream, downstream secure in terms of technology. Okay, and apart from that, promote circular economy, greatest potential for India. Okay, promote circular economy. Is that clear? You know why we have studied that part. Okay, next, so go for strategic diplomacy, like use the diplomatic channels, but make sure that you are running by the global standards. Of course, India always stands by the global standards. So according to the global order, make sure there is strategic diplomacy for India's safety and strength in the field. Okay, and moreover, it's not just one-time policy. You do it today and make it run for 25, 30, 50 years. No, it's not that way. World is changing every day, every minute. So is your policies, programs, technology, everything should be reviewed regularly and adapted according to the global standards. Is that clear? So that's how you can actually fight the global competitive market and make your mark in the, especially the defense and renewable energy, electronics, electricals, and such other industries. Is that clear? So to build India's industrial sector, you need to first safeguard the supply chain of the critical minerals. Yes. Also, India's complete green energy by 2070 transition, for that also it helps. Okay. So these are some things that you can look at, okay, where India can actively achieve its goal and become self-reliant. Is this clear? So, like, if there are any questions, you can ask me. Yes. You have any questions in this? Did you understand the concept? Easy? It's not looking alien? Okay, fine. Okay. So any doubts, any questions, anyone? That's it, clear? Okay. Chalo, we'll go to the next topic, or you want the break? Break? Okay, chalo, 10 minutes, you come back. By 7 o'clock we'll start. That's little more interesting, and you know about that topic, that's Himalayan crisis. Okay, so in the next topic, what we'll be looking at is basically how the Himalayan crisis is a well interconnected cycle of 3 events. 1, the seismic activity. 2, landslides. And 3, unsustainable practices by humans. Okay, how each of them are interconnected, that we will understand. Is that clear? So we'll learn in the next topic. So come back by 7, we'll start. Okay. Yeah.